It's 5:30 and I welcome everyone to the Saugeen Shores Committee of Adjustment for Monday, April the 15th, 2019, and I call this meeting to order. And I remind members to make any acknowledgement of pecuniary interest either now or at the time that it appears on the agenda. May I say to the gallery, if you wish any further information, there's a sign-in sheet outside those doors if you wish to have any information about any of the proceedings here that are relevant to you, so they can be sent. Information can be sent to you. I have a motion moved by Deputy Mayor Matheson and second by Mr. Legault, dated today, April the 15th, 2019, that we adopt the minutes of the March 18, 2019 meeting as circulated. Any discussion about the minutes? All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. There's no additional business, so we'll move on to item number 5, which is the public hearings. And the first one we have on our agenda tonight, or this afternoon, is 5.1. This is a minor variance, A-15-19.46. And it's homeowner Jason Cicchini of 807 Market Street in the former town of Port Elgin. Ms. Fortier.
Thank you. So we've got the property up on the screen there. So this is a property in Port Elgin along Market Street between Ruby Street here and Eastwood right here. So on the eastern extent of Port Elgin. Provide a little bit more context. There's an aerial view of the property. There's an existing dwelling and detached garage on the property, which are proposed to be demolished as a result of this application. The property is currently zoned R2 in the comprehensive zoning bylaw. And the surrounding uses are all residential. It has municipal services and takes access off of Market Street, which is a municipal road. So the purpose of this application is to facilitate the construction of 2 semi-detached dwellings. So it would be a total of 4 units on the subject lands. And in order to do so, the application is seeking relief from the minimum frontage per unit for semi-detached dwellings. So in the R2 zone in the bylaw, a frontage, so the part of the lot fronting onto the street, is required to be 10 meters. The proposed frontage for these units is 8 meters. And so in terms of related applications, the lot is also proposed to be severed down the middle in order to create 2 new lots. At this time, and then there's future consideration of severing the dwellings along the common wall once they're built, but that application has not been received yet and would likely come at a later date once the dwellings are under construction. So for now, it's just severing the property down the middle in order to facilitate the construction of the 2 semi-detached dwellings. So that's just the existing dwelling on the property. I'm not sure if that dwelling is currently habitable. Water has been shut off. So just to give some context there. In terms of the land use policies, in terms of provincial policies here, there's no real concerns of provincial interests in this regard. For the local official plan, the subject property is designated residential. The residential designation supports the proposed use and the objectives of the residential designation, which are to provide a mix of housing forms and densities and to maintain the character of established residential areas. I believe the proposal fulfills both of these objectives. In considering intensification such as this, Section 3.3.5 of the official plan provides policies to guide us. And there are a number of considerations, including the availability of municipal services, which are available in this instance. There's also parkland and public space within close proximity, the adequacy of off-street parking. Each of these dwellings is required to have 2 parking spaces, and there's more than enough room on those lots to have those 2 parking spaces for each dwelling. So off-street parking is adequate. The compatibility with the existing neighborhood in terms of scale, massing, height, siting, setbacks, parking, and amenity area. I would say that it is compatible. There are other semi-detached dwellings on this same block. And in terms of scale, massing, all of that, the height is the same as every other building. The setbacks are the same as all the other dwellings on the lot. So it's very much compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. There are a number of other semi-detached dwellings on the property. So just behind here, these are semis on this side up here. In terms of another consideration is existing vegetation is maintained. As you can see, there's not a huge amount of vegetation on the lot. There is one large tree kind of in the middle of the lot, which would have to be taken down to support the proposed development. But otherwise, it's just lawn. That community services and other neighborhood conveniences are accessible. This is a property central in Port Elgin, so it's in close proximity to schools, to amenities, so there's no issue on that front. And capability to provide buffering and other measures to minimize any identified impact. At this time, we're not proposing any mitigation measures. We don't anticipate any impacts from residential use. So with that, I do believe that the proposal is consistent with the Saugeen Shores official plan. In terms of the zoning bylaw, it is zoned residential second density, so the proposed dwellings are permitted use. Apart from the frontage, the proposal meets all the other provisions of the zoning bylaw. Just for comparison, the required frontage for a townhome is 6 meters, so this is 2 meters greater than that. And despite the reduced frontage, there's still adequate room on the property for a driveway, as well as amenity space in the side yard setbacks, which are between 1.2 and 1.5 meters, depending on the height of the dwelling. These are very, very deep lots, 40 meters or 130 feet, which ensures that an adequate building footprint can be constructed on the property. So it is my opinion that despite this reduced frontage, the intent of the bylaw is still maintained. In terms of the consultation, we received from town staff that they would be seeking 5% in lieu of parkland, that servicing has to be provided to the new lots, and grading and drainage plans shall be provided. So these are all fairly standard comments for this area. And there were no issues raised by any of the other agencies, and the SVCA did not recommend the preparation of an EIS in this instance. There were some comments received last week after this was given, after all of our documents were submitted to the town, but those would have been circulated to you with the agenda, I believe, those ones that were received. The main issue that was raised in those ones were traffic was one. This number of dwellings, I don't anticipate a significant traffic impact. On average, a single family dwelling, it's about one trip per peak hour that most transportation engineers would say. So you can anticipate about one trip every 15 minutes as a result of this. So that's not a significant traffic impact in my mind. The other issue raised in those comments that were circulated was if they were going to be rental or ownership. We don't legislate that. We don't control ownership tenure for dwellings. So whether it's owned or rented is really none of our concern. That's really, it's not determined in the zoning bylaw. So it's not a concern for this application. So in terms of the 4 tests, I've gone through the first 2. For the third test, is it appropriate for the orderly development and use of the land? I believe that it is. Provincial, regional, and local policies all encourage infill and intensification type development in existing built-up areas and existing services. The proposed development meets the majority of the required zoning provisions apart from the reduced frontage, and despite the reduction, the intent of the bylaw is still preserved, and the lot will be able to accommodate some added density, making more efficient use of the lands and the existing municipal services, so water, sewer, roads, and parks. None of those have to be extended for this. So it's generally, infill such as this is a positive thing for sustainability, both for the town's long-term financial sustainability and also sustainability in terms of using already developed land to add more density. In terms of test 4, is the variance minor? I believe that it is. I don't expect that allowing this variance will impact the ability of surrounding property owners to use their properties for permitted uses or have any impact on the environment or municipal functions. So with that, I do believe that the variance is minor. and I do recommend approval, subject to any comments heard tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fortier. Is the applicant present? Do you wish to address the committee, sir? Would you please come to the microphone, sir? And we can turn it on for him.
So I did print off just a few copies just for you guys to have a look at, just to see what the exterior would look like. So basically, just circulate that. So it's basically a raised bungalow with a garage on the center wall that's shared. So it's very similar to a lot of semis kind of in town. And then there's going to be 2 bedrooms upstairs, and then the basement will be unfinished at this time. In terms of the rental component of it, we're still unsure, and we're still kind of working through numbers currently. So we're likely going to build them and then hopefully sell them off. So that's kind of our plan with them.
Are there any members of the public that wishes to address the committee? Bill, please come up and identify yourself.
My name is Janice Bennett, and I own property that's almost across the road from this particular piece. And there's not a lot of area for snow removal, the way things exist now. So now we're putting 4 buildings. Where's the snow going when it comes February and we're buried? I don't want it on my land. We have a row of cedar trees, and we already have had neighbors in the past that have pushed their snow from that residence across to our property, and they push the snow too close into the trees and they actually damage the bottom limbs. So that's where my concern is. And I don't know if we really need, something like this in our neighborhood, where traditionally it's always been single dwellings. It's quiet, and we like it that way. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Sir, are you going to address?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is John Chalotai. I have been living there with my wife, Patricia, just across the street for 44 years. And we would like to ask the management, town management, to reject the proposal. I don't really understand how can this classified as minor variance when a significant major change taking place. The zoning bylaw disrespected and abused. Simply one semi-detached or one duplex is acceptable, but 4 families living there is not acceptable. We have one person who is on shift work, sleeps during the day very often. We want to keep this area quiet. We do not really wish to have 4 families with friends coming, cars squeaking the tires, and variety of other problems. I have been talking to the neighbors, and I could not find one person or one family who do agree with this proposal. One duplex or one semi-detached is acceptable. But 4 units is just far too much, and in my opinion, serves nothing but an extra profit for the builder. And the builder will be gone, but we are going to stay. And we pay the taxes, and when it comes to municipal voting, we vote. The contractor is going to put the profit in the pocket and will be gone. Again, I like to ask the management of the town to respect the present zoning bylaw and do not approve this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone? Yes, sir, please approach.
Hi, thanks for having me speak. My name is Jim Punnett. I live on Elgin Street, a couple blocks over. I guess there's going to be another semi-move built down further from where I live on Elgin. So now you're going to put 4 more residences on the next street over. The services in that area are very limited. For our communications, which most people have, we're very restricted on what we can have. The water, I don't know if that's been updated. In the main lines, we have problems up there. On the street that goes by the cemetery, we got a lot of water problems that flow down that way. And compounding this will be this, as somebody else said, the snow removal will be an issue. I didn't get the lady's name who did this talk, but she didn't state very many facts. It was only in her opinion that she thought these things would be acceptable. So she hasn't really provided us with any concrete information on what she's presented. I don't know if you noticed that or not. It was all subjective. So whatever she's proposing, you should have something concrete. The proposals are changes from what the community is. There's other places in the community that can support or be updated to handle this type of housing for 4 units in 2 lots together. So I know there's problems in that area with roads, gutters, and that type of thing. So I don't know if this is a money grab to try to help support and do that work or not, but it's not favorable for that area, especially with the type of housing that's around there. The other thing is, if they go through with this, there's going to be other properties that are on the same level who are older. Are you going to now restrict them because there's already a double, the 2 lots with the double houses on? Is that going to restrict what somebody else can do in the future? So these are just a few things I noticed. So thanks for listening to me.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak on this topic?
Hi, Stephanie O'Leary. We live next door to the proposed building, and I just wonder, when she said street traffic, we're talking about a very small street, small block, maybe 10, 11 houses, so adding 4 more houses on one street is going to create a lot more traffic than we're used to. So I just wonder if that's taken into account when you're talking about not affecting traffic. You're talking about a small street with only so many houses on that block. That's my only concern.
Thank you. If there's no one further that wishes to speak, we'll turn it over to the committee. Just
Just back up what Ms. Cleary said. Oh, Middleton. 4 times is 400% increase, right? 400% increase is a little more than that.
Committee. Questions? Councillor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So one of the concerns that we've heard is about concern about traffic congestion, parking. It looked like from the diagram that was put forward by the applicant that there will be a garage in each unit. And then you would propose that the other parking space would be in front of that garage? Okay. I have a question about whether, is there a laneway at the back of this? So the only entrance would be from Market Street?
Yes, I believe. There is a laneway, but I don't think it's accessible. It's just on the map, but it's not traveled.
Okay.
It's not. It's.
Okay. Sorry, I had a.
Yeah, it's hard to tell on the slide, but this is kind of grade on our map. So yeah.
So another question, I guess this is for Tessa. The further severance that you talked about in the future, if this application is approved, and then the further severance of the dwelling, is that something that's done at the county level?
Yes.
Okay, and what would be the public notification process for that?
For severances, if there's if it's just a severance, so it meets all the conditions of the bylaw, it's circulated to all the property owners within 60 meters.
And they would be given an opportunity to comment on that?
Yep.
And have input on that further severance?
Yeah, there's no public meeting, but they provide a notice and can provide comments.
I think that's it for now. Thank you.
Properties that are behind the current dwelling, are they severed down the connecting wall?
Yes, I believe so.
They all are.
Yeah. Yeah, these are, it's hard to tell on the screen, but these are all relatively narrow lots, so there's,
Right.
so behind this property, there's 3 properties of semis.
So do they meet the requirements for frontage on?
Yeah, I think they do because there's 3 here. It's a little bit bigger. So currently you could get 3 dwellings on this property in question under the zoning bylaw. You could get a semi, so 2 dwellings and then a single under the current zoning bylaw on the property. So this application really just allows for that 4th semi, that 4th unit. But you can get 3 as of right now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you. To our builders, will you be putting up any privacy fencing between the units to kind of block off in between each of the 2 units, or down the sides or at the back?
Yes, we're going to be providing some fencing in between the common wall. So the 2 units will be basically have the privacy, and then we were thinking about doing some extra privacy potentially in the backyard, just depending on either planting trees or privacy fences.
Wouldn't put a privacy fence between the 2 units individually as well?
Yes. In between the units, so in between the actual the
so
common
you'd have
wall.
3 fences, so one down the common wall, one splitting the 2?
Correct. And then right now there's a hedge on each side, so we might have to build up certain areas of the back, but the sides seem to be pretty private right now. So.
Chairman, thank you. My question really is to the builders. If you look at the picture, that's the topographical, and you can see where the boundaries on the outside of your lots are, that it basically is something I thought about before. You could meet the requirements of the 10 meter if you were to look at either a triplex or 3 units. Right? On a feasibility standpoint, that's one of my questions as to Has that been given any thought? Well, yeah, it'd be like having, you'd have one in the inner side, and you'd have two with an open side too. They build townhomes like that every day.
That would have required a reason.
That was just the. So right now the zoning is R2, which is currently behind. There are properties that are the semi-detached dwellings. So we're just trying to not rezone everything. That's basically it. If it wasn't, yeah, that's kind of the question. So
it's a case of zoning versus a variance.
Variance, yeah, correct. And we thought that the zoning, giving two semis, considering there's semis behind, would blend in better than having two-story row homes.
Deputy Mayor Matheson.
I had a conversation with Jay about this earlier. I'm a land person myself. However, going by our zoning bylaws, our builder meets all the needs of the bylaws. He is in conjunction working with our county planner, has followed the letter of the law. Until we change our official plan, which is going to be under review this year, we are not able to change the variances that are allowed by the county. So as long as our builders meet the needs that are put out by the county, we cannot stop the development like this. I know it's hard, but we have to follow the letter of the law with this one. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Matheson. Councillor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going back to a comment that Tessa made in her report, and I don't know, maybe Tessa or Jay could comment on this. And it's talking about the removal of the large tree in the center of the lot, which I see would be necessary for the construction of this. But, you know, the importance of a tree like that in terms of the drainage in the area and that kind of thing. One of your report comments was that the committee could include as a condition of consent to require tree planting to mitigate this potential impact. So could either Tessa or Jay comment on how that might be done?
I can speak to that. So that was just put in there. I thought if it came up and was seen as a significant issue by the committee, it was something I would speak to the builders about, and through the consent process we can impose conditions, and a condition could be some sort of, vegetation planting on the property to make up for that. If it was seen as a major issue by the committee, it's something we can explore as a condition of consent. There's a lot of opportunity there to do that.
Thank you, Tessa. I guess I see this not just as an aesthetic issue, but also potentially a drainage. A large tree like that is going to soak up a lot of water and be an important issue. That's something that one of the gentlemen spoke about in his comments about concerns with drainage in the area. And personally, I would think it would be a good thing to do to have some kind of tree planting plan as a contingency, but it's also, do you need a motion on that, or is that just something you would explore?
You could make a motion to add that this with the upcoming motion. Yes. Ms. Kuntz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do have one concern looking at the aerial photograph. On the minutes, it's page 6, so I'm not sure if you can get to that slide. I think you can see it, but it's difficult to see the outline of the size of the lots that are semi-detached units behind the subject property. My observation is that 3 of those lots are slightly bigger than this lot at 807 Market Street. That makes me think that it would not be in keeping with the neighborhood to divide it into 4 parcels, whereas behind it, 3 parcels take up more width than this lot allows for. To me, it does seem like an unprecedented intensification in that block. That's my only observation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Coons. I have a motion moved by Deputy Mayor Matheson and seconded by Mr. Legault, dated today, April the 15th, 2019, that minor variance application A-15-19.46 be approved, subject to the following conditions. 1, that the minimum lot frontage be no less than 8 meters. 2, that any future development on the property conforms to the provisions of the zoning bylaw. And 3, that the decision applies only to the proposed development as indicated on Schedule A, attached to the decision sheet and forming part of this decision. Any discussion on this? Councillor Grace.
Yes, Mr. Chair. I would like to propose that a condition of approval be attached that would ask direct staff to explore or discuss with the applicants some kind of tree planting plan to try to substitute for the loss of the big tree.
Thank you. Is there a second for that motion? Ms. Coons. All in favor? Oh, sorry. Yes, of course. Discussion. Deputy Mayor Matheson, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you. Before we get to that, I think we need to look at the state of the tree, the health of it. Is it in good shape? Is it something that needs to come down anyways? On a property like that, the tree is not really going to affect the drainage. Should we have a tree planting? Our builder said he's looking at possible shrubbery down the side to make some privacy. But I believe before we say we have to do this, I think we have to look at the state of the tree. Many of those big maples that are still left in that area are old and are getting to the stage where it'd be better for them to be down anyways.
Councillor Grace.
Maybe didn't state it properly, but I think my motion was to direct staff to explore the option. So that would, I think, allow for your concerns.
Mr. Reid. Yes, Mr. Legault.
Chair, Jay, is drainage not dealt with at the site plan?
Yes, not the site plan, rather, the building permit. This is not subject to site plan control.
Right.
And this is not the jurisdiction of this committee. Building official and town staff would review drainage plan to ensure it's not flooding any neighbor's lands.
Anything further? All in favor? This is, we're voting on the motion of adding the tree, directing staff to explore the tree. Yeah. Exploring, directing staff in order to work with the tree. We're voting so all in favor on that motion. That is carried. Thank you. Well, that will be added to the. Pardon? Yeah, this one here. Okay, here we go. So we have a motion moved by Deputy Mayor Matheson and seconded by Mr. Legault, dated today, April the 15th, 2019, that minor variance application A-15.19.46 be approved, subject to the following conditions. Number one, that the minimum lot frontage be no less than 8 meters. That any future development on the property conforms to the provisions of the zoning bylaw. And number three, that the decision applies only to the proposed development as indicated on Schedule A attached to the decision sheet and forming part of this decision. All in favor? Those opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Our next item is number 5.2. This is a sign bylaw variance for the Police Services Building with municipal address of 1240 Mackenzie Road. Ms. Fortier.
So the Police Services Building and their construction and design of the building have proposed a sign as shown on the attached drawing. I've circulated an attachment as well showing the building elevation where the sign's proposed, and it's a sign, a facial wall sign that's proposed above the roof line of the building and above the first story of the building, which are both not standard provisions of our zoning bylaw. So I've outlined in the report what the committee must consider. We don't have, and there's two options there that are outlined. One is to approve it, and you can attach any conditions you want, or the other option is to refuse it. I suppose if it's refused, there's a spire standing in the sky that may have to be adorned with some other feature. But so I sort of present that for your discussion as it is.
Any questions or comments? Not? I have a motion moved by Councillor Grace and seconded by Deputy Mayor Matheson, dated today, April the 15th, 2019, that the sign bylaw variance for the Police Services Building located at 1240 Mackenzie Road, Port Elgin, be approved, subject to the following conditions. That the approval applies only to the proposal as indicated on Schedule A attached to the decision sheet informing this part of this decision. And number two, that any future signs on the property conform to the provisions of the sign bylaw. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Our next meeting will be Monday, May the 17th of 2019. And I have a motion moved by Mr. Reid and seconded by Deputy Mayor Matheson, dated today, April the 15th, 2019, that we do now adjourn to meet again at the call of the Secretary Treasurer. All in favor? Thank you.